We're back. It's the Daily Stripe. Wild card weekend done. Niners, move on. Jags, the boys, the Bills, the G-men, the Bangies. Which quarterback of the NFC quarterbacks? You got Purdy, you got Hurts, you got Jones, you got Dak Prescott. Rank them for me, actually. 1 through 4.
You want to start?
Well, I think 3 and 4 have to be in some order. Jones, Purdy. That's what I'm going to have Jones at 3 and Purdy at 4.
Okay.
I think Hurts is 1.
I think Dak's 1. I'll take the guy that's played in a playoff game and won, as opposed to the guy that hasn't played in a playoff game and is coming off of an injury.
So you're so we're factoring the injury in and everything.
Why wouldn't it be factored in?
It's fair.
I mean, I feel like Dak has had games where he's disappeared this season. Jalen really hasn't, besides the games that he didn't play. And Dak has caught the injury bug a couple of times as well. So I'd put that in there. But look, Dak played an amazing game the other night against Tampa Bay. Threw 5 touchdowns. I mean, looked really legit. But all season long, we're talking about how Hurts could be the MVP.
Cakewalk schedule. It's the playoffs, not the regular season now. That's my, Hurts. And it was interesting. I actually saw someone line up, who the Chargers, what quarterbacks they had beat. And the list was not impressive whatsoever. And I think a lot of times, we forget, what the matchups are during the regular season. Like, when they played the Cowboys the first time, it was Cooper Rush, right? When they played the Cowboys the second time, he wasn't playing. So there were not a lot of true quarterback matchups that Jalen Hurts had to rise up. And obviously you're playing the defense. You're not playing the other quarterback. But it does affect how many points that other team can score. And the Eagles did have a very easy schedule this year.
Okay, but do you think the boys then in that case, so we're talking about Dak versus Jalen, but can we say that the Niners are probably the tougher opponent between the Eagles
for sure,
and the Niners themselves?
Yes, because I think while I have Brock number 4, the rest of the team is number 1. If you were to line up personnel to personnel. And the Eagles have a fantastic team, but I think what we saw from the 49ers, they were nearly unstoppable against that Seahawks team all across the board. Okay. Defensive line, linebackers, DBs, did what they could. DK had a couple of great plays, but their skill position players are unmatched.
They pretty much shut him out in the second half.
Yeah.
Except for sans a touchdown. So let me ask you this. Obviously, we've talked time and time again about the Niners and the offensive line, the defensive line. When their skill positions players are healthy, Purdy's real ability is to get the ball into the best playmaker's hands. Does his job.
That's all you need to do.
It's really all you have to do in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Now,
look, I'm not gonna lie, he's pretty good.
Hey, he's pretty good. He is. He's. You know what? He doesn't throw out. He had a rough start to the game. And then once he found his rhythm, he really stopped throwing incompletions. He didn't really turn the ball over. That's it. I mean, we saw that, and you talk about the Chargers game the other day, Nick. They couldn't run the ball effectively. If you can't, look at the Buccaneers. Tom Brady threw 66 times. The Buccaneers, not only in that game, but the entire season couldn't run the ball effectively. If you can't run the football effectively in the National Football League, you will not win games. Or the big games, at least. Every time, I remember actually, I think it was either the first, must have been the first, maybe the first or second Giants, probably the first one, Giants Super Bowl where the Patriots lost, right? And they were 18-0, and everyone had made this whole big to-do about Moss and Brady. Record-breaking seasons were unbelievable, 50 touchdowns, 20, whatever, receiving touchdowns. When they got to the playoffs, they really started running the football. It wasn't until they abandoned the run in the Super Bowl where they lost. I mean, the guys, the Titans have thrown 1,000,001 quarterbacks out there over the couple of years, and now it's the one constant's been Derrick Henry. Is Derrick Henry good to go?
Right.
If you could run the football in the National Football League with a good offensive line and your quarterback doesn't make mistakes, you're going to be in a great position. I don't care who your quarterback is, if it's Tom Brady or not. Clearly, it doesn't really matter. And it's not like Brady, his completion percentage wasn't great, but he had a pretty good season. Maybe it wasn't the best of his standards, and we'll talk about him in a hot second, whether he's coming back or not. But he had a pretty good season by and large if you compare it to a normal quarterback. You need to be able to run the football. And the Eagles, the Giants, the Niners, and the Cowboys, you could almost make the argument out of all the teams in the NFC.
Could be the best 4 running teams in football, honestly.
Exactly. Maybe outside of the Lions, who weirdly do it pretty well.
Right.
cash in pretty well in the NFC, and then you go across the board, like the Bills, like their quarterback can move, like the Jaguars, like once the Jaguars really started running the football with Etienne in the second half, or like the last 3 quarters of the year, ironically they're winning all these games.
Lawrence can run too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, 5 rushing touchdowns on the season.
100%. Like, you have to be able to run the football. It's probably why honestly, it is why the Chargers lost their inability to run the football. We'll go to the AFC side. Rank those quarterbacks for me. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lawrence, of guys you want right now.
Mahomes 1.
Okay.
Burrow 2.
Yeah.
Allen 3. And then Lawrence 4. But honestly, pretty close.
Can we say the gap between Lawrence and Josh Allen is a lot closer than people want to give it credit for?
Sure.
I thought you were talking about the gap is between Burrow and Allen, not honestly. I think we talk a lot, and it's reflecting on the college football championship and that Georgia team winning, reflecting on guys that are greats like Tom Brady, and Drew Brees. I know we get really tantalized by these prospects who can throw and can run, but the ability to make great decisions, to not turn the ball over, is second to none.
Right. Especially
Especially in the playoffs when you only get a certain amount of possessions to make it happen, to score points, to put points on the board. And I think that's why I say there's a gap between Allen and Burrow and Mahomes, who I have, I do have Mahomes obviously at 1 because he's the perfect combination of that athleticism, the arm power, and also the improvisational ability, and then the decision making too. And it's just Allen has done it too many times this year where he's turned over the ball in the end zone. In the red zone.
I mean, like it's
literally in the end zone.
You also have to consider like how close he's gotten so many times and not gotten it done, right? You only get so many opportunities in this league to win. And he's gotten there, I mean, the last couple of seasons pretty close, and he's just not been able to execute and get it done. So obviously he's going to be their guy for the future, but when you're looking at like the greats, Jim Kelly, there's a reason why he's not considered, one of the greats, because look, he went 4 times and couldn't get it done there. Sure, he's a Hall of Famer, but like you don't put him in the same category as Joe Montana and Steve Young and John Elway and Dan Marino. I mean, like these guys won.
Yeah, they'll never be put in the same category like a Rivers, a Ryan. Like
you can't.
But he also
there's a reason why Dan Marino's not mentioned with Joe Montana.
True. Marino's got 1, right?
What?
Marino has 1, right? Oh, 0. That's right.
Nothing, bro.
Exactly.
But it matters what guys these GMs put around the quarterback too. And to your point, it's like Diggs is a top 5, top 7 receiver.
Gabe Davis
that was my next question.
Top
you guys.
20.
Is he
top 20?
No way.
Gabe Davis?
No.
No.
But I think
maybe.
Can you ask for a much better roster to have around you by and large? No.
Who?
Allen has a great roster around him. It's not like he's carrying this team. Quite frankly, there's times where they were.
But it's about the right pieces, though. I mean, like I would take the Cowboys' offensive pieces over the Bills. I would honestly like what Mahomes needs. Like Josh Allen doesn't have McKinnon. He doesn't have, or he's not being a guy like Nyheim Hines isn't being used in the way that they need to unlock Josh Allen's complete potential as an offensive quarterback who can pick and choose when he wants to do what on the field.
They should be in a position, like we talked about DeAndre Hopkins being available. They should be in a position to go get him.
I'm just saying they feel offensively a little bit, I know they're so high-powered, but a little bit limited because they can't run the football, because there are certain things that they can't do that other teams can't.
I don't
think
a receivers is like a thing they need to go after, if anything.
I just think a thing they need.
But what about like another tight end with Knox? Because like Knox got banged up this season.
Yeah.
He was out for a lot.
And honestly, Knox, like he's even that.
Exactly. Like I'd take Dalton Schultz.
Oh no, yeah.
Even the Cowboys
on Sundays.
2nd and 3rd string tight ends who they drafted.
Knox is better than he's
see.
as good as Hendershot and Ferguson. Better though.
Ferguson, who had a 40-yard screen pass that he took up the field.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, look, it just depends how you're utilized. I think with the Bills, though, for me, there's games where, like when the Bengals were down to the Ravens the other night, like I looked at Burrow's, you look at Burrow's line, like you really go for like a deeper analysis of the game. Like he's still like 15 of 20, 15 of 19. Like he's not throwing them out of the game. They're just really not putting the ball in the end zone yet.
Right.
There are times where the Bills are down or there's tight games against Buffalo, and Josh Allen is 13 of 24. Like he's not, like when he's in rhythm, he is the top 3 guy. But when he has moments where he's out of rhythm And yes, granted, he could run the football himself and still move the chains effectively, like a Hurts, like a Jones, like these running quarterbacks can. But there are times when he's 13 of 24 and he's throwing them out of this game. Incompletions, interceptions. Like Mahomes doesn't do that. Burrow doesn't do that. Quite frankly, like I can't say Lawrence doesn't do that because he threw 4 picks in the first half, but he came around through 4 touchdowns. Like him and Allen, that gap is closer to me than Burrow and Allen. I wouldn't be surprised if since he goes in, and no one should be, since he goes into Buffalo and beats them. Real quick, let me ask you guys this, though. We talk a lot about quarterbacks. Where's Tom Brady next year?
Hell if I know, man. I mean,
Give me something.
I don't think he's staying in Tampa.
Why would you?
I think it's either hang it up or go to like a legit contender that like gives you the best opportunity. And I don't know who that is, because it's like if it's the Raiders, like they've got a lot of soul searching to do just in general.
That's a bad move on their part.
It's a bad move on their part and his part, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Wouldn't you rather stay in Tampa at that point?
1,000%.
exactly. Yeah. Like,
less competitive division, at least.
I mean, if I were him, like, would I want like the homecoming maybe just to end it in New England, and put Mac on just like the bench for a little bit to learn from him a little bit?
Yeah, but then it's just
I don't think
you're playing.
I don't
You're
want
like
that.
if Tua comes back next season, like this Dolphins team has a lot of pieces, right? And their defense actually like
Jets are
started to
competitive.
make some plays, right? If the
So
Jets,
maybe the Jets.
the Jets maybe. But do you? I just feel like he's a bit of an opportunist as well, and like he knows that like while his clock ticks slower than everyone else's, like it still is ticking, and eventually he is going to have to hang it up. So he wants to make the most of it and play on a true contender.
So let's say the Niners make the Super Bowl and they don't win with Purdy. And Tom Brady openly comes up to Shanahan and says, look, I want to play for San Francisco. I want to end it where my youth started, right? Where I started playing football as a kid. I'm
just
from the Bay
bullies
Area.
his way in there.
Yeah. They say yes, right?
Yeah. Because
You're a Super Bowl contending team. And with Tom Brady,
they are the one team where I truthfully think it doesn't matter. I think they got googly eyes for the Lance kind of type prototype, like Allen Mahomes, like can make plays on his feet, roll out, and do the dance. But what they really need is a Purdy, a Garoppolo. These guys, they're the prototype that look up to the Brady type. Get the ball out quick.
And Purdy, a lot to be proven though, but he out of Garoppolo and Brady definitely moves the best out of those three
he
guys.
moves the best. He's the youngest for sure. But at the same time, like if you're Brock Purdy, right? This is your rookie season. Like you weren't really even supposed to play. You're Mr. Irrelevant. Somehow somehow you make it to the Super Bowl, right? And if they say, okay, we're going to bring in Tom Brady for a year, you're not going to start this season. You played great, but you're going to learn from the greatest quarterback of all time, who himself was a guy taken in the late round that wasn't supposed to be the starting quarterback. So you're going to learn from the guy who did exactly what you're trying to do. And then when you're ready next season, you're going to be our guy.
And then what do you do with Lance?
You trade him.
Trade him.
And you move Garoppolo for whatever you can get.
Garoppolo's
Trade
free agent, right?
What? No, you got to trade them both.
Garoppolo, I think he signed a 1-year deal, right?
I thought it was two.
I think it's a 2-year deal. Okay. I could be wrong. You got to move on from both.
Exactly.
In my opinion, if you get Brady, quite frankly, if Purdy gets to the Super Bowl, I think he's probably your guy for cheap.
Send traded to Vegas. Send Garoppolo to Indy.
Or the Jets.
Bring Tom into San Francisco and let Purdy learn from him.
I think Tom would still be staying in Tampa Bay. My final hot take before we close out. He would still be staying in Tampa Bay if they didn't hire Bowles, and they hired a really good offensive-minded coach, the right guy. They hired Bowles. Bowles is a hell of a defensive coordinator. He's not a head coach. He tanked the Jets, and he tanked this Tampa team. And he's seemingly keeping his job, and Byron left, which is the scapegoat. That's all I want to say. All right, Daily Stripe. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Hook 'em horns.